In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys the best settings to use for Warzone and Resurgence after the most recent update. A lot of people have been asking me for a recent up-to-date settings video. I have changed a couple of things around, so this is going to be that guide. If you guys looking for the max FPS and the best controller settings, I've got you guys covered. Just make sure you watch till the end of the video. Before I jump into the first settings, I just want to say G Fuel is doing a huge sale, and you guys can save big using my discount code KP or by clicking the first link in the description. I'm also ranking at people's Warzone ranked accounts, so if you guys are interested in that, make sure you guys join the first Discord, also in the description. I stream every single game, and I even show my task manager when I load up. That way you guys know there's nothing shady going on or anything like that. Now let's go ahead and just jump right into the settings. So to kick things off, I want to show the controller settings first. I do like to play on the default button layout. If you guys do not have a custom controller, I've got an aim controller which has 4 different paddles. If I can pull it up real quick, I've got paddles and back buttons, so that way I can click X, my slide, all that stuff without having to move my fingers with the analog sticks. If you guys don't have something like that, you can experiment with some of these other button layouts. Some people like to play on tactical, some people like to play on stick and move. I personally like to play on default because I have the back buttons. Bumper pinks, turn those off. I don't play flip because I have the smart triggers, which basically turn my R2, L2 into mice clicks, meaning that flipping them doesn't really do anything for me. If you're on a default controller, I would flip this. Stick layout, you should use default. If you use anything besides that, you're kind of weird, I'm not gonna lie. Controller vibrations should be off. I know it's a little bit weird to try to get used to initially, but having something shaking in your hand isn't really going to help you when it comes to trying to make fine-tuned movements or control recoil. Trigger effect, make sure that's turned off. And then for your dead zones, this is my current dead zones that I'm rocking. I know some people like to put the triggers to 1. I don't really notice the difference between 0 and 1. Plus, like I said, I have those smart triggers, so I don't think it matters to me anyway. The left stick main, I like to put to 3. The right stick main, I like to put to 3. And the left stick max actually put to 50, so that way I only have to push my analog stick 50% of the way towards any sort of direction. Hit that max sprint speed. This allows me to get into that tactical sprint stance faster, which really helps, to be honest with you guys, when it comes to trying to do quick slides and fast movement. For our aiming settings, I'm still on 88.75. I haven't changed anything there. I wouldn't go any higher than 10. I wouldn't go any lower than 5. This is my sweet spot and my happy medium. That is going to be different for some people, but I'd say 8's a pretty common Warzone sense. All of the multiplier stuff I just leave on 1. Aim response curve should be on dynamic. You all should be on dynamic. It's by far the best to make fine-tuned movements and be the most accurate. The rest of this I'm going to leave on default. Make sure that's instant. Make sure that's off. Target aim assist should be on. Default aim assist type. Don't use any of the other stuff. Don't use precision. Don't use focusing. Don't use Black Ops. Black Ops is not good. Some people used to swear that the Black Ops aim assist made you have more aim assist, but it honestly does not. Nobody, including the top players, use Black Ops aim assist. Everybody uses the default. That setting doesn't really matter. Motion sensor behavior, you can turn that off. The rest of this stuff, you're not going to use any of this. I just leave it all on default. For the gameplay settings, I put on auto attack sprint. I actually take off my slide maintain sprint. And the reason for that is because if you play on hybrid, having slide maintain sprint turned on causes you to get those accidental dives sometimes. I don't know exactly why. It must be a bug or something like that with the hybrid and the slide maintain sprint. But long story short, if you're playing on a hybrid slide / dive behavior at the bottom here, then you should have this off. If you're not playing on hybrid, then you should have this on. Auto move forward should be off. Tactical sprint behavior should be on single tap sprint. I believe this is a setting that the pros GA'd because it was too busted. Allows you to just click the left analog stick and instantly hit that tack stance. Super busted, super worth it. And it even works with auto attack sprint. Grounded man, so I turn that on just so I can get through the windows. If you guys find that you're sliding and accidentally mantling over stuff when you're doing that, it's because of this grounded mantle setting being on. I find that it helps me though more often than not. And while it may be annoying accidentally mantling on stuff when I slide next to something, being able to climb through windows, stuff like that, it helps me way more than it honestly hurts. These automatic mantles and hangs should be turned off. Slide and dive behavior, like I just kind of mentioned, is hybrid. Plunging underwater, I change this from trigger to free. Parachute auto deploy should be off. I do the sprint door bash on. Some people turn this off if they like to do door plays a lot. I personally just leave it on. Kind of like being able to just bash through the doors anyway and surprise people. So I think it's helpful to have that on. Ledge climb behavior, I have it on movement base. I think it's a little bit faster. And the rest of these settings, to be honest with you guys, I'm not going to change. Tack stance, I leave on default. Interact reload behavior should be on prioritize interact. Playing multiplayer, it should be on tapped reload. Make sure you have your armor plate behavior set to apply all instead of apply one at a time. Apply all is super worth it and it saves a ton of time. And I'm sick and tired of seeing people use apply one. Please change this. Is a very important setting. ADS stick swap, turn that off. Backpack control is directional buttons. I don't use the analog stick. I have seen some other top players using the stick to control everything, but to be honest with you guys, I feel like it's a lot slower, especially when it comes to using like things like the buy station, where it's super important to be really precise but also really quick. I found personally that when I tried this, it was very hard to kind of do those same very fast, very precise movements when using the backpack control on stick. So directional buttons, which is the default option, should be the one that you want to use here. Repeated ammo weapon switch, I have off. By default, this is set to on. Basically, what it does is when you run an ammo in your, say, primary AR or your sub, it'll switch your gun. I like personally being able to control when my guns switch all the time, even if I'm out of bullets, so I turn this off. The C4 detonation stuff doesn't really matter. Manual fire behavior, I put to press, don't do hold. Kimbo behavior, I do independent. And then the rest of these settings here are just going to be left at default. That's all my controller settings though. Hopefully these kind of make more sense as to why I use everything that I use. Now let's jump right into the graphics. Display mode needs to be on full screen exclusive. I'm tired of seeing PC players not be on full screen exclusive. Being on borderless introduces anywhere from 10 to 30 milliseconds of input delay. It has a good noticeable amount of input delay. It makes your game feel pretty crap, to be honest with you. Should all be on exclusive. Don't use borderless. These settings are going to kind of depend on the monitor you have. I play on 1440, 165, so I'm just going to leave these at auto. It's already kind of set it to the max anyway by leaving it on auto. Aspect ratio, the same deal. I'm not going to talk about any of the stretch resolutions or anything like that. I did try stretch res for a day on stream. Didn't like it. It felt pretty bad. I don't recommend switching any of that stuff. Just leave that on default. As you go down here, I do like to play with the NVIDIA Reflex low latency set to on plus boost. Some people say that when they set it to on plus boost, their input delay feels a little bit inconsistent. I personally haven't noticed that inconsistent delay that people talk about getting or claim to be getting at least. So I just leave mine on plus boost. If you do find or do feel like you're getting a weird delay or doesn't feel consistent, something along those lines, just switch this from on plus boost just to on. Eco preset should be on custom. By default, it's on efficiency. Turn that off. It needs to be on custom. Efficiency is going to basically make your PC or your console use less power, meaning your game performs way worse. I don't know why they added this setting and made it default, but make sure that is turned off. VC stuff doesn't really matter. I set my frames to unlimited always. Don't really care. And as you kind of scroll down here, HDR turned off. Don't really need any of that stuff. Not really worth it. For our quality settings, like I said, I play on 1440p, so that's the res I leave it at. For the fidelity cast, I like to use 100. Don't use any DLSS or anything like that. I saw a pretty big YouTuber upload a settings video where he told everybody to use DLSS to get hella frames. And let's just say he got ripped apart. For good reason, too, by the way. DLSS introduces a lot of input delay and it makes your game look like crap. Don't use it. Should all be on fidelity cast. You should be using a value of anywhere from 80 to 100. 100 is the sharpest, and in my opinion, the most clean looking, so I use 100. Ray tracer should be off. VRAM scale target, anywhere from 75 to 85 is fine. I like to use 85. Do not go higher than that. You will start to get weird crashes sometimes. Variable rate shading does give you a little bit of a frame boost, and to be honest, I don't notice the huge quality difference. As you go down to our textures here, I leave pretty much all of this stuff on the lowest possible. I want to get the most frames possible while still preserving a pretty clear game. I will say this though, for my tessellation and ambient occlusion, I like to set this to static objects just because I struggle a little bit with depth perception. I'm a little bit older, you know what I mean? Not that old, but it does help me a little bit, at least I find. If you don't really care about that, set it to off, you get more frames. The same thing with the tessellation. I think it adds a little bit more depth to stuff, which helps me to see things a little more clearly, immerse myself into the game, whatever it may be. If you don't really care about that and want the max frames, set that to off. And the last setting I want to touch on here, I set the water quality to all. The main setting that you want to have on here is water caustics. Water wetness doesn't really matter too much, but water caustics is going to really help the light kind of reflect in the water, allowing you to see people that are swimming around much easier. I set it to all because I'm using caustics. I might as well chuck on the wetness there too. I'm going to do a PC setup, so it doesn't really matter to me, but the lowest you should set this to is probably water caustics. For the view, I still play on 120 affected FOV. I set my third person at 90, and then the vehicle I set to wide. Motion blur should both be off, and film grade should be turned all the way down. Your camera settings should be on least for both first person and third person camera movement. This is going to help you feel like you get a little bit less recoil. It doesn't have the exact same effect, but it has a similar effect to playing on affected. It just makes your camera not move as much or seem to not move as much, so your recoil just feels a little bit less. Next off, for the audio settings, I don't want to talk too much on this to confuse too many people, but I use the Artist War audio stuff. I'm honestly not the greatest at explaining how complicated the Artist War audio stuff is. So if you guys want to know the exact audio settings I play on and how to configure everything, you should just look up Artist War audio on YouTube. He has like a really long guide. It's almost an hour guide, kind of crazy on how to set it all up, but it makes my audio super crystal clear and I hear literally every single footstep. The interface settings, I play on the default colors, but I will say I have started actually changing my HUD bounds. And if you guys are unfamiliar with what this is, your heads-up display, so like things like your mini map and stuff like that, they usually appear on like sides of the screens. What this does is it allows you to both push them in towards the middle and more towards the middle of the screen in both a horizontal and vertical fashion. I just smush everything more towards the middle of the screen. I don't do any of the verticality stuff because I found when I do smush the top, I usually miss things like PA noties and stuff like that. A lot of people are starting to move in that minimap, especially. That's basically what this does for things like ranked resurgence, where it's super important to be paying attention to the minimap. I think it helps me not miss anything on the minimap that pops up, UE ping, stuff like that. So I really recommend you guys give this a shot. Just scoot it all the way in towards the middle and just click apply. Minimap shape should be square, should be on for rotation. Horizontal compass, you can leave it on or off. Doesn't really matter, honestly. I usually take it off for my thumbnails, but by default, I think it's set to on. Crosshairs, I do turn on, and I just use the default center dot option. You can make this a little bit bigger if you find it harder to see, but I wouldn't go any bigger than using the larger one. Hit marker visuals and all this stuff should be turned on. The telemetry settings are a bit to preference, and then the rest of these settings are all left on default. But yeah, that's all my settings. That's the updated settings. That's all you guys need to know. That's gonna help you get the max FPS on both the current resurgence map, and it's gonna even help you guys when Rebirth comes out in just over a week. If you guys find today's video helpful or like my content, I post daily Call of Duty videos. Please consider subscribing and commenting down below again if you guys have any questions. I also am still doing those Warzone rank account boostings if you guys want your rank boosted up. All done live on my Twitch stream. Just join that first Discord link in the description. With that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.